I'm your host, Tiffany G, an Australian business and mindset coach with 10 years experience in online marketing and the creator of the Business Bravery framework. I help coaches to be brave so you can sign more clients even if you hate marketing and sales feel icky. From signing your next paying clients through to launching that dream group coaching program, the Business Bravery framework helps you take bigger leaps without the mindset spirals. It's helped my clients double their investment in me, make thousands of dollars, and truly build their dream business. In this episode, I want to share my lessons learned from quarter two. And my quarter two I wanted to joke around and say quarter two, otherwise known as quarter two, was a dumpster fire. However, that's like really probably not helpful, maybe not something I want to share out there. But the thing is like to attract attention, it's like the extremes definitely attract more attention. And it was definitely a situation where like I had health issues that led into mindset issues, and then unmanaged mindset stuff definitely impacted my actions and my results. So it was a less than ideal quarter two, but then at the same token, I learned some really valuable lessons and identified some repeating patterns that now that I know this, I can just take different actions. And on the internal side of things, like it was amazing. Breakthroughs have happened. However, on the external, yeah, my income was affected by my health and having to pull back on being able to take certain actions and things like that. So anyway, basically the key takeaways from what you're going to hear today, or at least this is the plan. We'll see what happens. As you know, I have dot points and then I have tangents from the dot points. So the key takeaways: mindset is everything, and if you don't manage it, it will manage you by default. And that led to my ultimate demise this quarter. Another key takeaway is putting your head in the ground or putting your head in the sand won't solve anything, but it might feel good for a minute, but not as good as sorting out the issue, knowing that you know how to sort it out going forward, right? Another key takeaway is even at your lowest, you can turn things around and become stronger than ever. And that is the fun and comforting thing about rock bottom. So this is an unconventional thing. Like I've decided to spend this year sharing my goals and my progress and my messiness in those goals and the progress. And yeah, like it's definitely unconventional to share this stuff, but by the same token, like this is me going through it and working through the process. And this is where the Business Bravery framework helps with this stuff, to be able to identify the repeating patterns and to help, to really just like make progress even when it feels like you're not making progress. And I know that I'm not saying this because I created this system, because a lot of the system is not new under the sun, but there's a couple of things that I feel are unique to what I do with the Business Bravery, the visioning, the planning, and the check-ins, right? There are some things that are new, or like they support me, and I think that they are a little unique and different, and I've found them very supportive. So it has been amazing having this as part of my system, because it's like, hey, like this is going to sound crazy, and I'm only saying it on this podcast because it's kind of just occurred to me, but actually like I feel less alone having this system of going through things and check-ins and stuff like that. So I'm just on my screen, and I know you guys can't see my screen because I'm not sharing it on video, but I'm sharing like going through like one of my weekly check-ins, just because this one stood out, and it's also the one that I taught in the last round of sessions and I shared and showed. So like the weekly check-ins, and like this is where I really discovered that the weekly check-ins were just so necessary. I actually had a couple of really eye-opening ones. Now, on my weekly check-in, I'll get back into some of that stuff, but basically the goals for the quarter, right? So that we know what I was aiming for. And with the Business Bravery framework, it's not did I achieve the goal, it's did I put in 80% effort to achieve that goal, right? That is my barometer for how like what works for me, because I'm just very sensitive to like not achieving things. Like I'm shooting for the moon, or like as part of the system, we shoot for the moon, we land on the stars. We don't beat ourselves up for not landing on the stars. Oh, yeah, for not landing on the moon the first time round. And so part of that is like focusing on the effort versus did I actually achieve the goal, right? Because a lot of what happens with goals is that it requires people outside of us to sort of say, yes, no, I'm going to be a client, or I'm going to be on your podcast, or I'm going to listen to your podcast. I'm going to watch your stories and things. And like we can't control that part, but I can definitely control how often I tell people about my email list, or how often I tell people about the masterclasses, and even the Facebook group and all of that stuff. So that's to me where the 80% effort, and I know if I'm putting in that 80% effort, right? So my goals, I have one, two, three, four. I have 5 goals for the quarter, and that's what I've been doing for quarter one and quarter two. So first goal was 320 people on an email list by May 31, right? Then run 3 classes in June from the 24th to the 26th. That's different to the quarter before where I ran about 12 90-minute classes. This time it's like, hey, we're just going to do 3 30-minute classes over 3 days, and that's going to be the promotional thing. Then running a Facebook group during the month, and sorry, just realized. So run a Facebook group for June 3 to June 30 so people can connect and inspire each other. That's the goal. That's how I wrote it. Then have create 2 podcast promo episodes, which I did that, though one of them didn't end up getting released. So fun times for me. And then reach out to 10 podcast hosts per month with the idea of landing 2 people to say yes, that I could be on their podcast. So the way this worked out for me is that in terms of the 80% effort, the email list, that didn't happen, and I'll explain the reasons what was going on, but that didn't happen. I ran the 3 classes. I absolutely did do that. The Facebook group, that definitely happened, but it kind of happened more in the last week while I was actually doing the classes. And then the podcast promo episodes, that happened, although the last one didn't end up getting released. And the reaching out to 10 podcast hosts per month, that definitely happened, and I landed a lot of guest podcast posts. So like guest podcast opportunities. I definitely got my 2. So some things to just that I want to tell you about, because I just need to know, like, so this comes off the heels of, like, if you heard my lessons from quarter one, perhaps you will know that at the end of quarter one in March, I ran like Bravery month, and I ran how many? It was a number of different classes. I think I tried to do 7 or 8. I think I did 7 classes all up. Through March, there were 90-minute classes, and some had more people, some had less people. I was also doing I had 3 guest podcasting spots in one week, and 1 presenting the masterclass in somebody else's group. And I just really overloaded myself. I wasn't sleeping well. I was very like, it's like, that feeling when you've got a 5 a.m. flight and you have to get up earlier than normal. And even though you try and go to bed earlier, your body's like, it's excited. It wakes up 3 or 4 times a night. Yeah, and you don't want to miss that 5 a.m. flight. Well, I kind of did that to myself on 4 out of 7 days in a week. And then that led into then running the episodes, like the master classes and things like that. So I ended up falling in a heap in the middle of the month. After 3 weeks of that, I didn't do so well because it started the week before March started. And so I was coming back from that, and like what happened was that I yeah, I ended up in this thing where I had chronic pain flare up, brain fog, fatigue, and was needing to sleep more. And I was in a lot of pain. And so, like, it would take me 8 hours to do a 3 hour workday. And so at first, like, there's like I was okay with that. It's like, okay, yep, no worries. We're adjusting, we're shifting, we can deal with this. However, just like all of my normal business tasks are just piling up. I couldn't keep on top of the DMs and things like that. And then my mindset just was really affected. And I ended up falling into like some really like unhealthy thinking of what's the point and I'll never make this work. And let me tell you, when you have the thought, what's the point? I'll never make this work, it's really hard to work on your business. It's even harder to do anything, to take actions. And this is part of the what I found challenging having chronic health stuff and building a business, because sometimes I can do all the things and it's great until I suddenly can't, and I don't always see it coming. And I know that there's a lot of coaches in my community who do things with burnout and everything, and yeah, like I know that there's definitely signs that I know of to look out for, and there's probably signs that I missed. I really thought I was ready for that, and I just like all the meditation in the world wasn't helping me come down from all of this excitement that my body was processing as adrenaline and fear. Even though I was actually excited to do these things, it just really without being able to get the right sleep, that was an issue. And then my hormones got out of whack. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. I just want to point out how like it's not like everything was going well and then, like things like just this went on for quite some weeks. This also led to me avoiding the whole Facebook group thing because that was something that was outward focused and it needed energy and things like that. I avoided the email list. So my results, like you can definitely track back to some of my thinking. Now, the other the other thing that I stopped doing, because when you have the thought, what's the point? This is never going to work. And like I was seriously considering, I was like, maybe this is it. I'm done. Maybe I go back and get a job. And if I can even get a job, because I probably don't look like a great hiring commodity because I've been doing my own stuff for so many years. So yeah, I wasn't doing weekly check-ins because I kind of just wasn't in business zone. So like my results are like a direct reflection of these thoughts and these actions, and it totally, totally makes sense. Now, don't worry, I'm going to be telling you about how I turned all of this around. So this is not a woe is me episode. This is like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm actually weirdly proud of the place that I'm at now. Right? Even though it doesn't look amazing, and like, I mean, I'm grateful that I have had clients through this and I did sign new clients through this. And yeah, just like, although the income numbers are lower, it's still like the business is still moving forward and it is still successful, right? And like I've managed to recommit to my business. It really is a commitment. And a commitment to finding a solution to this situation. So I know like it's just, man, it doesn't seem sexy to be sharing this stuff, but it is like I think it's just what we go through as part of being a business. And sometimes you go through seasons that are just a little bit messier than others. So, and like, so, like I have coaches who are helping me with the health side of things. I also have coaches who are helping me with like the business and the mindset side of things as well. So it's just like this kind of thing is what I'm going through. Now, some other part of this too is obviously like I fell behind on editing the podcast and things. Like, yeah, it was hard. And like I know now just how important those weekly check-ins are. So my weekly check-ins, they're about like not just looking at what happened and what needs to change, but it's like, okay, what thoughts led to creating this situation? And what thoughts do we need to work with to reframe to go forward? And if I'd have sat down and done that a bit earlier, I think that might have helped. But by the same token, I think when you're in that position of like, actually, I just don't think I can, like, I feel like I've tried everything over the years. I don't think I can make this work. It can be really hard to kind of, even the self-coaching might not have worked. And I like, it was actually in a coaching session where I had like the coach actually said, oh, hey, like actually, I run my business on just, a few hours a week and this and that. And part of me wanted to go, oh, well, that's fine for you. That'll never work for me. Because in the past, when I've tried to do things like when I talk to people, they want to work with me, like, in on calls and things like that. But anytime I've tried to do, hey, sign up for my course or do this or that, people haven't been that interested. And so, yeah, it just really felt like I rock in a hard place. This isn't it. It's not doing it. And yeah, but we in terms of turning it around, it really started with like I did this weekly check-in, and like I said, part of the weekly check-ins, it's not just looking at the goals, but it's like, okay, what are the thoughts that got me here? And then what thoughts am I happy with? What thoughts do I need to reframe? And how can I be kind to myself through this process, as well as, what worked, what didn't work on in the real world side, but it's really getting into the mindset side. And I had one of these where it was just, there was a lot of thoughts of, oh my God, this will never work. And I like, once I started writing them down, I was like, oh yeah, no wonder I'm at this point because here's my mind. And it just, my mind's very good at coming up with a lot of that negativity and using all of the evidence of every time somebody said no, every time a client dropped out. Yeah, because that was another part of this process. I think I had 2 or 3 clients drop out in within a couple of weeks. And, I'm okay with that and everything, but it was just like added into like that was yet more evidence of like my brain trying to say, here's why this isn't working. And whereas normally it's just like, hey, clients finish up and then you go and you find new clients and yeah. So, yeah, I had to come around to this thought of it's possible that I can find a way to earn more while working less hours, that I can work smarter rather than harder. And like I need you to know as I say this, this is like I don't know, like this is like learning how to brush my teeth in the complete opposite direction. Like, oh, like if you start on the left side and work to the right side, top to bottom or something like I do, but then it's like, oh, you know what? From now on, I'm going to start on the right and go to the left. And even that seems a bit easier than just not like doing all of the things. Like it's like there's just things like I don't want to let go of the podcast. Like honestly, some of the easiest thing to do could be letting go of the podcast, but that's what helps build me a community, helps me with networking, helps me connect with other people and have like better business relationships and things. It's yeah, I don't want to do that. So then, like there's just other ways that I've got to find to work smarter rather than harder. And that's a lot of what I'm going to be doing in quarter 3, which I'll talk about in a minute. So some other thoughts of like, okay, it's the reframes that I had to have to turn it around. It's like, it's possible that I can feel safe while having lots of people look at me. I skipped over this part beforehand. Something that I found through my weekly check-ins was the launch. And like my launch that I had, where it's like, okay, we're just doing the 3 sessions over 3 days. That's something that I didn't plan very well for the launch because I had all the health stuff. I stuck to it and I did it anyway, but I definitely didn't have the lead up that I normally would. I didn't have the energy and the focus like I normally would. And my results were like, I mean, I'm glad I did the thing, but it's wasn't, and I had a few people watching and they said so, and that was amazing. But it definitely wasn't a thing that converted and got people into working with me necessarily. Not like previous rounds have been. So yeah, and for those of you who like know energy stuff, it's like you can feel where I was, like I was just coming out of things and getting into the energy and the swing of things. So yeah, that completely makes sense. But what I found interesting was that I had a thought of, okay, like my launch won't do well. And I had instant relief, and I had to go and look deeper and find out that actually, like, I have a thing from childhood. And I talked about this when I was teaching as well. I identified that I have a real thing about when people's eyes are on me, that's when I'm going to mess up. So I used to like, if I played a computer game and I'd be playing on my own, that would be fine and I'd be doing really well. The minute somebody came into the room and I could feel them watching me, that's when I would like instantly, mess up and I'd have to start over again. And all they would see is every time they come in the room, I'm just messing up, right? So I had this story. And so it's interesting, especially as a former launch coach and everything. Just I've always had this dual thing inside me about like, hey, like launching, you want eyeballs on you, but there's this part of me, this core part of me that just does not want eyeballs. And I can see how it's been working against me in terms of sabotaging things and like not doing things to the last minute and not sending replays and things like that. And I just thought it was the resistance and the usual stuff, but now it's like, oh, actually, I can find out where this was happening in my childhood and work through that and let it go and all of that sort of stuff. So, yes, that's where that comes back to. It's possible that I can feel safe while having lots of people look at me. And while I have proved this to myself in small ways, it's just the bigger ways on those bigger launches and things. And it makes sense how my launch in March ended up, and then why my next one wasn't so great because I didn't identify that until after the next one. Some other thoughts that I needed to do for reframe is like I'm brave enough to face the truth without beating myself up over the results or lack thereof. And especially that whole, not checking in with the weekly check-ins and things like that. That can be hard for me, especially like if I feel like I'm behind and it's like, oh, well, I could review the week or I could just get something else done so that I wouldn't be as behind. You can see how, but then just that whole realizing, actually, no, this is essential. Like this helps me to be more productive and just, yeah, turning that around. Being okay that it's all a bit messier than I'd like. Like it's not a case of, oh, cool, I'm just going to change all of the things, the way I run my business and the types of tasks I do and all of that. And like I said earlier, it's like having to relearn a new way to brush your teeth when you've just operated automatically and done things automatically for so long. And even to the extent of like, I'm trying to build a new way of working. However, I still lean into my old ways of working of like, oh, let's put a ton of very stressful things on one day and things like that. Um, I'm in a process now where I'm having to break down my business to nothing and like slowly add things in until they work again. And that's not fun. It's certainly not overly like amazing to talk about, and it's certainly not sexy, but like I'm really glad that I have the business bravery framework that I have, because like I've got those check-ins to help keep me on track and to help me make decisions about, oh, hey, this is working for me, this isn't working for me, and that kind of thing. So I don't feel so alone with it. It's like, oh, you know what? I've got a system. I'm working through this. I'm testing things out. I have reviews and data and things like that. And another part of turning it around is just having to be kind to myself. And I know this is building a stronger foundation for the future of my business and myself mentally, right? The fun part about rock bottom is that once you've been there, you know that you can get back out. And this is not the first time that I've gotten myself to some sort of level of burnout, and especially in business, right? It can be easy to say yes to all the things, especially when I was a, people pleaser and that kind of stuff, right? So now going forward for quarter three, and I'm not going to share all of my quarter three goals, but I'm just going to share like one of my biggest ones from these lessons learned, right? Is that like now one of my new goals is reducing my working hours by creating and testing a funnel and having one small mini course as part of that funnel, right? And like, I hesitate to share this goal because it might not sound as awesome as X number of clients, but to me, this is indeed me shooting for the moon, right? I'm trying to break a cycle of overworking and burnout by working smarter. And that doesn't come naturally to me, especially when I've tried to work smarter before and I didn't get results. So my brain wants to tell me you did this before, it didn't work. You know, what works is you being on all the calls. What works is you talking to people and conversations equal clients and things like that, right? So this is breaking through my repeating patterns because for me, it's way easier to keep trying to do more. As I might have said just before, it's like more conversations, more clients, more podcast episodes, right? That's maybe the default Tiffany way. And that's sad to say that out loud. But yeah. So this now requires belief in my ability to create a funnel that works or to create some automations that work. In fact, before this, I was like looking at the mini chat and being able to deliver things. I've got awesome ideas for like a quiz that's coming up and just things I can't wait to put in place that I think I really hope it's going to make things easier this time. Um, yeah, because previously in previous iterations of my business, I had a lot more automations and things, but because I didn't have the community and the connection with people, just I don't know, like and I didn't have the brand, the Bravery brand as well. It just didn't necessarily like click with people. And that's the fun of like knowing all of the marketing strategies and things, but you can't replace that personal connection with any kind of marketing strategy. Like you have to create that connection in different ways. So yeah, anyway, with with the whole creating a funnel that works, it's like I've had many failures and I've had some successes in the past with funnels too, but nothing has really worked as well for me as face-to-face interactions. Like it's just, yeah. And the face-to-face ones, they've always worked in this really nice fluid way, especially when my energy and everything's going well and I don't feel overwhelmed and I'm not putting a block on letting things come into you know, like receiving new clients and more income and things like that. Then like those face-to-face things, like yes, like I don't know, I might have talked to somebody a couple of times, but then sometimes it's just like a 5 minute conversation and they're like, yeah, I want to work with you. And you're like, yeah, that's awesome. And I couldn't even tell you what I said to get them to work with me. You know what I mean? Like they were just conversations, random conversations we had. It was not even a proper sales call. And people are like, yeah, let's do this. I'm very grateful. I've had some really like I've had long-term clients where I've had clients for years that have stuck with me and I shouldn't say stuck with me, who have chosen to continue working with me for years. And I genuinely appreciate that. Like I can't be doing something that badly if people are still wanting to work with me, you know, 4 years later. So yeah. Um, anyway, I'm really grateful that I have the business bravery vision and planning process and just being able to recognize the repeating patterns, log my lessons learned, plan new actions, and just find new thoughts and beliefs to support my new way forward. Like, God, I know it sounds cheesy because, you know, it's like, oh, I created this system for myself, but like, like it's weirdly working. And I know like it doesn't sound sexy because it's not like, oh my gosh, where's all your extra money? And I have like doubled my income at times. The health stuff, like obviously my income took a bit of an impact, but I'm still able to keep my business going and moving forward. And like, you know, when you've just sort of been in that kind of place where things were not great, but you come out of it and you just feel stronger, like that's how I feel. And I wouldn't have had that. I mean, like, yes, sometimes you can be working with a coach and they can be like, oh yeah, you know, like, and obviously like, you know, there's no replacement for that. But it's like sometimes it's like you don't even necessarily know what's going on with yourself for them to help you necessarily. But this ability to get in and go, oh, hey, here's what's going on. So I can take it to my coaching session and go, oh, hey, I know what's going on. At least I know some of it. And they can say, oh, here's what I'm seeing from the outside. And yeah, it's just, you know, just so powerful and that sort of things. So now, just to do a conclusion for this, I just want to kind of recap the takeaways and just want to sort of reiterate that mindset is everything, as you can hear from my story. And if you don't manage it, it will manage you by default. And that is really what happened to me this quarter, right? Like the whole, you know, letting my health issues, because like, like, yeah, there's health issues, but there's the story that I tell, and especially that story that led to I'll never make it work. I've tried everything. This is never going to happen. It's like, obviously, you're not going to build an amazing business off the back of thoughts like that, right? The actions you're going to take from those thoughts and those feelings are definitely, not the ones that are going to help you grow a business or attract people to you and that kind of stuff. And when that's happening on autopilot and you don't have the ability to check in and go, oh, hey, what thoughts led me to the week I just had? What feelings is that creating, and what can I reframe, and how can I take actions moving forward? And how can I be kind to myself? Like, that's what the check-ins, it's all about self-kindness and self-compassion. Maybe those things mean the same thing, maybe they're slightly different, so I'll use both words. But like I said, putting your head in the ground or your head in the sand won't solve anything, right? But it might feel good for a minute. I'm going to tell you, there were some there were some good times of just like mainlining Netflix, binging Netflix, mainlining. But it did feel like, and just being able to take a break from all of the stress and the worry and all that, but it definitely doesn't feel as good as like, oh, you know what? I'm sorting out the issue and I have a foundation. I have a solid foundation moving forward. And yes, I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I know what I'm going to try out next. And even at your lowest, you can turn things around and become stronger than ever. And that is the fun and the comforting at rock bottom. And it's also just the comforting thing about having this system that I've created of, the bravery, the setting goals, like the the 80% effort, the check-ins with self-compassion and self-kindness, and just having a better um, relationship with yourself. If you want to know more about that, you can watch the replays from last time round, where I go through and show you how we plan out the whole quarter moving forward. Because previously I've just taught the planning, but this time around I showed that whole check-in process, and you can hear from this quarter how vital that was. And even though I didn't do it every week, the times I did do it, especially the one that was really at rock bottom, I was like, whoa, wow, is this what's going on in my head? Then it's like, oh, no wonder things aren't smooth sailing for me. It's like, oh, yeah, we need to reframe some of this. And yeah, it's actually been really comforting to know that I have this system, this way of moving forward, and being able to see those repeating patterns and just go, oh, right. And just know that, okay, yep, I can work this out. It's also, I want to say, has been like, I've made changes on the health side of things to help balance my hormones, so I'm not having as much fatigue and brain fog, and the being able to then, get better quality sleep and more of it, so then the chronic pain has decreased and I can do more exercise. Like, it's not necessarily in a vacuum, but it's definitely all of these things together have helped me. And I like I'm seeing this as part of the full like 12-month cycle of like, hey, I'm doing this for 12 months, at least to start with, in this way. And just like, I just kind of love this as like, hey, quarter one went pretty well, and then quarter two wasn't so great, but I learned some valuable lessons. Quarter three is going to be even more amazing. Or actually, I don't know. I think quarter three too, it's going to be putting things in place so that quarter four and then the following quarter is, next year is going to be even more amazing. I think it's like being able to see things in this maybe longer term view. It's like I don't have to turn this around in a couple of months. Just because I think like this quarter coming, I'm going to be testing out funnels and things like that. And yeah, I won't know how things are going and have things in place for them to really take off until the following time, I think. But who knows? Maybe I will surprise us all. So, anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you resonated with this, if this has helped you, I hope that this has been a beacon of positivity and not just, quarter two was a dumpster fire. Like, it's just it's crazy because it's like it's not sexy on the outside, but it's really sexy in my mind. Like I just feel this mental strength that I just wasn't having for a few months there. And I'm like ready to just get in and do this stuff. And I'm so much more committed than ever before. Well, I mean, I have been committed like this before, but it just feels like there's just this mental strength and certainty to life and business now. So if you are enjoying this, if you want to watch the replays, let me know there, I can send you links to watch them so that you can learn how this whole process goes. If you are just resonating and hey, this helped me to take some steps and changes, let me know. Find me over on Instagram at Tiffany G Studios, Tiffany G for golf, Studios. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Business Bravery podcast. Has this episode inspired you to do something brave? Even if it's only send a difficult email, please share it with me on Instagram or other social media channels. Feel free to tag me at Tiffany G Studios. That's Tiffany G for golf, Studios, no spaces, no underscores, etc. Or you can use the hashtag Business Bravery Podcast so that I can cheer you on and together we can inspire other coaches and course creators to do brave things in their business and life. Now, I'm Tiffany and I'll leave you with this one last thing. What's one brave thing you're going to do today? It doesn't have to be big. Even the smallest steps can create the most massive results. So again, feel free to share it with me either publicly or privately so that I can cheer you on. That's it from me. Until next time, bye for now.